Back with us on the SportsMax zone. Wayne Lewis is not behaving himself in studio again. Anyway, the news from the Houston Rockets camp is that the franchise is willing to play hardball with their all-star duo of James Harden and Russell Westbrook amid indications both players do not want to be part of the roster for the new season. ESPN reported that they are willing to be uncomfortable with them. Reports are that on Tuesday, Harden rejected a proposal from the Rockets management worth about $103 million over 2 years to remain with the team. Now, it has been extensively reported that the 31-year-old is looking to leave Houston for New York to join up with Kevin Durant at the Brooklyn Nets. The Rockets are understood to be adamant that the only way Harden or Westbrook can leave is if the deal is financially sweet for the ball club. Joining us to discuss this issue is our NBA analyst, Mikhail McLean, a former power forward at the University of Houston. Mikhail, welcome again to the SportsMax Zone, sir. Good to be talking to you again.
George, what's up, Mariah?
Did you miss us?
Yeah, man, I miss you guys.
There you go. Mikhail, this business of James Harden, obviously, Murray is gone, his coach is gone. It's a new regime in the Rockets front office, and on the sidelines, he wants no part or parcel of this Rockets team. Russell Westbrook also wants to move on. Where do you see it all ending up?
A perfect example of a disgruntled star. James Harden's been with the Rockets for a number of years. We could all make the excuse that if Chris Paul didn't get hurt that year against the Warriors, they might have advanced to the NBA Finals. But Harden and the Rockets have just done just enough to make it, but they haven't done enough to get by to the next level. And he's really frustrated with the organization. He's frustrated with the front office because he doesn't feel as though he has been surrounded with the right pieces. Although I think he has been surrounded with the right pieces, and we'll talk about that in a second. But he's just frustrated, man. And I think the most disappointing thing is that when D'Antoni left and Morey left, I feel as though like there wasn't a great connection that was built upon Silas, the new head coach, and the new GM that they have. So I just think Westbrook's frustrated. He doesn't like the way things ended last year. And I think Harden's frustrated because he's like, you know what? If things aren't going to go as planned, I'm in my prime for only maybe 3 or 4 more years. I need to go somewhere where I can win right now.
Yeah, so the issue of the pieces around James Harden convinced me that he had those pieces. He's had those pieces under the Morey D'Antoni, or in the Morey D'Antoni era.
George, he's had everybody. I mean, like I said, if Chris Paul didn't get hurt that last round and they made it to the finals, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Perhaps.
But the conversation that needs to be had is that James Harden doesn't capitalize in the moment in the playoffs. In the regular season, he does it. Early on, he'll have 40 points, 50 points, 60 points. But when it comes to crunch time in the final, in the Western Conference, in the second round, the first round, he hasn't been capitalizing. So at some point, fingers got to be pointed at James Harden that he's not getting it done himself.
Mikhail, I don't understand American sport, all sport in America, including the NFL, baseball, and now NBA. In the part of the world that we live, I mean, a contract is a sacred thing. You don't play around with a contract, and no one wants to be known that they opt out of a contract. If you sign a contract for a particular number of years, then you see through your contract and then you move on. In America, it doesn't work like that. My understanding is that James Harden contract goes up until 2023. And in 2020, at the back end of 2020, he's demanding a trade. Unless there is some kind of, old clause within his contract that he can trigger to say, I'm going to use this to get out of my situation. Why would he go and demand a trade when he's on contract under contract until 2023?
That is a great question. It's a 2-part question. I'll answer that in a second. I'll go to one, America, because first off, I'm from the Bahamas, so I understand wholeheartedly what you mean by what you're asking. In America, they have AAU basketball, right? And these kids play from the time that they're 7 years old to the time that they're 18 years old in AAU basketball. In the time that they're playing AAU, some kids switch teams in one season 3 or 4 times because they want to go somewhere. 1, that's a sneaker team that gives them shoes. 2, that they get to play on the biggest stage. 3, that they get all the gear in the world. 1, so they're going to places that they're comfortable going, right? In the Bahamas and Jamaica, in parts where we're not as fortunate, we're used to getting out the mud, and we got to make do with what we got because that's all we got. in America, it's a sense of entitlement. And that's not a knock on all Americans, but there's a sense of entitlement that, okay, if things aren't going well, I'll just take the easier route and go somewhere else. In terms of the contract, James Harden has an opportunity to stay there until 2023, whatever the contract said. But this offseason, he turned down an extension that would have made him the highest paid player in the NBA this season. The fact that James Harden, a guy that's about 30 years old, is turning down an offer to be the highest paid player in the NBA shows that it's not about the money at this point. He wants to go somewhere and he wants to play to win a championship because he feels as though he's made enough money. He feels as though that he's done enough for his career individually that he just needs to show that the last thing he needs to do is win a championship. He's won MVP, he's won scoring titles. He has to win a championship, and he understands that his window is now.
Yeah. Mikhail, the producer says we're to move on, but Mariah has a burning question that she has to ask you. So it's one question less in the draft segment of this interview.
Mikhail, don't you feel like people are being unfair to James Harden? And I say that because he is upset because he felt as if he didn't have enough say in the Houston Rockets, you know, the decisions that they are making. Of course, LeBron James, if we look at the role that he has, how come Harden doesn't have the same?
Well, you know, Mariah, we've been having this discussion since the spring. It's because LeBron is the GOAT. Nah, I'm just kidding. He is, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Harden, yeah, you're right, Mariah. Harden should be frustrated. LeBron James literally gets to handpick who his head coach is, who his strength coach is, who changes the toilet paper in his bathroom in the hotel. He gets decisions on every single thing. And Harden feels as though he's done enough for the organization that, one, he should be able to pick who his head coach is. Because at the end of the day, guys, if we're being honest, it's not about who the coach is. It's about who the players respect. So Harden could bring in one of his best friends to coach the team. If he respects that guy, Harden's going to play better. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, yeah, you're right, Mariah. Like, he should have a lot more of a decision. I think he wanted Ty Lue to be his head coach or one of somebody else, but not the Silas guy that got the job.
And as you say that, Mikhail, you know what? It makes no sense. As much as I wouldn't really welcome the decision of James Harden moving from the Rockets, it makes no sense that he stays there if he's not happy.
I mean, the players have to be happy at the end of the day. And if they move him now, they have a chance to get something back for it. If they wait until 2023 to answer the gentleman's question that asked me earlier, Harden could leave for free and they get nothing out of it. So, I mean, if they want him to move, he got to leave now.
As Tom Hanks' character famously said, Houston, we have a problem. Moving on, worrying news coming from the Golden State Warriors camp is that shooting ace Klay Thompson is, he has done significant damage to his lower right leg. This was the early statement, with insiders saying earlier that it was a euphemistic way of announcing that the five-time All-Star has picked up an Achilles injury. That has subsequently been confirmed. The Achilles injury happened while Thompson was ramping up his workout regime ahead of the new season. Recall that the 30-year-old missed all of last season due to a torn ACL in the left knee, and he picked up that injury in the championship series loss to the Raptors in 2018-19. Now, Thompson's injury is understood to have compelled the Warriors to take James Wiseman as the second overall pick in the NBA draft. Mikhail, my viewers were waiting for you to come on because they wanted someone closer to the action who can tell them a little bit about James Wiseman, the James Wiseman pick, and the strategic thinking by the Warriors in choosing him at center rather than perhaps a guard to add to their roster.
First off, man, I'm so sorry for my Bahamian brother, Klay Thompson, with his injury. Matter of fact, right now we're talking, and I just got a call. I know you guys can't see that, but Chris DeMarco, he's the head player development for the Golden State Warriors. He's Klay Thompson's best friend. He works him out, and he was with him when he got injured. So he just called me just now while we're on this segment right now. He was going to talk to me about it. So I'm just sorry for Klay and his injury. In terms of James Wiseman is a guy that plays in the conference that I coach, and I coach at the University of Houston. James Wiseman played at the University of Memphis. He was only there for about 3 games. The NCAA had a violation against him. He stepped aside. But guys, when I tell you that is a very, very special player. That kid is one of the most talented players. In the short time that I watched him play this year, he is super talented. He's a kid about 6'10". He's freakishly athletic, like touch the top of the backboard, left-handed, really skilled. And he's a guy that's going to really excel in the Golden State Warriors offense with a team that has Steph Curry, even without Klay Thompson, have Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and a ton of other pieces that allows him not to be the focal part of attention. James Wiseman is a kid that if he played on another team, let's say he went to he went to Cleveland, right? He would look really, really bad in Cleveland's system because they would force him to be the best player, to shoot the ball a lot. And that's not really his role. He's a really, really high-level role player. He's going to be in a lot of pick and rolls. He's going to dunk the basketball a lot, and he can make a wide-open shot. So that makes his game, he's going to really flourish in Golden State system if he's healthy.
More important, Mikhail, than his skills, how is his temperament based on what you saw of him?
The guy, you know what, like, you know, with freshmen, when they get to college, it takes them a while to adjust to the physicality of the game. They tend to get really frustrated, take bad shots. He's a guy that was really mature for a freshman. I was impressed with his maturity, and he was really level-headed, and he looks like he loves the game of basketball. So when you have that combination, it allows you to be really successful in your career.
Excellent. Real-time information, yeah? Here's a look at the top recruits that will enter the NBA when the season tips off on December 22. So the number one man, the top guy, Anthony Edwards, the Timberwolves. Wiseman, we just spoke about him. LaMelo Ball hooking up with Jordan at the Charlotte Hornets. Patrick Williams goes to the Bulls. Isaac Okoro at Cleveland. Onyeka Okongwu with the Hawks. Killian Hayes with the Pistons. Obi Toppin, a New York boy playing for the New York Knicks. Dreams don't get much bigger than that. Then the Israeli at number 9, Denny Avdija, taken by the Wizards. Jalen Smith with the Suns. And two guys with Jamaican connections. Isaiah Stewart's father and grandfather are Jamaican. He was born in New York. He's going to the Pistons. And what about Nick Richards at the Charlotte Hornets? The strong Jamaican connection there. So the Caribbean flavor in the NBA draft. In the top 16 there is that. And if you go down to 42, you get Nick Richards with the Charlotte Hornets. Michaela, last thing before you go. The pundits were a bit lukewarm about this year's recruits. Not so much effusive in their praise about even the number one pick in the draft. Briefly, are they lukewarm about this crop of recruits with a reason, or are they being harsh?
George, you know what? I'll be brutally honest. This was not a very talented draft. James Wiseman, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, they're all really, really good players. Now, I'm hoping that I'm proven wrong. But this was a down year for the draft. But you know what? Like I said, I hope they prove me wrong. Shout out Nick Richards. Shout out big fella from Isaiah Stewart. I actually coached against both of those kids. We coached against Kentucky 2 years ago. Nick Richards was on that team, and we coached against Isaiah Stewart and with Washington last year. So I saw both the Jamaican blood relatives firsthand. So shout out to them. They're really good players.
Excellent. Top intervention from you again, Mikhail. All the best to you. We look forward to talking to you again. Good. Mikhail McLean talking to us from the gym in Houston. He's a coach at the University of Houston, played for them in his college years. And as he said, he's very close friends with Klay Thompson's best mate, who was with him when Klay Thompson picked up what turned out to be a season-ending injury as he was preparing for the new season. It's tragic for the Warriors. Let's hope they can rescue what is already going to be a tough season for them.